Your reaction to the travel ban?
Hi, Nicole. It's, as Yogi Berra said, deja vu all over again. It's this sort of gesture which sort of points at caring about our national security. But, about 3 sentences later, it just shows that, like so much of what comes out of the Trump White House, it's likely to do more harm than good. As you pointed out, this perpetrator of this horrible attack in Boulder was Egyptian. Egypt is not one of the countries. When we were attacked on 9/11, most of the hijackers were Saudi. Saudi's not on the... But look, bottom line, you don't have to be a security expert to know that there aren't a lot of terrorists in Chad or any of the other 19 countries saying, our plan relies on getting that student visa, and then and only then will we perpetrate our act of terror. That's not a thing. And so, again, like so much of the Trump administration, this is an empty gesture that is going to cause a lot of pain to people who have families in these countries, to students who are planning on studying in this country for no appreciable security benefit.
The other thing I think that comes to mind is that we've watched what they've done on the national security front. They have gutted and summarily fired intelligence heads for communicating factual information to Tulsi Gabbard about the role Tren de Aragua plays in our country and the ties to the Maduro government, which aren't a thing. They have purged leaders and experienced people from the FBI if they had anything to do with any of the January 6th cases. The goal of protecting U.S. national security is noble, but they've not taken any actions in pursuit of that goal. What do you do about that?
Yeah, you're right to point that out, of course. The director of national intelligence, if you look through her Twitter feed, you will see that she is 100% dedicated to keeping the American people safe from the Biden administration. And she's bringing up, by the way, just Elon Musk today brings up the Epstein files. She's bringing up the Epstein files, the JFK assassination. What you see there, what you saw in the Signalgate chat is the opposite of the way that national security professionals behave.
You raised the Musk-Trump feud. Since I've been on the air, it's been raging. Elon Musk dropping the Epstein bomb on Donald Trump's head. I struggled as I was coming on the air with why this matters. And to me, it matters because it's a mask-off moment. All of our concerns from the outside about why Musk was there are confirmed. Trump revealed that he was mad about the EV tax credits being cut from the big bill. And all of our years of concerns about Trump are affirmed in Musk saying, without my $277 million, he surely would have lost. Trump was always for sale. Other than that, what do you see as significant in their feud?
Well, it's sort of fascinating to think that Elon Musk literally a week ago was in the White House just overflowing with praise for Donald Trump and presumably knew something about this bill, which made it through the House in a very partisan way. And then a week later, he's in a completely different spot. And the president's a completely different spot. Now, what I would suggest is maybe worthy of some reflection there is the degree of absence of principle, the inauthenticity. So, when Elon Musk says Donald Trump is the greatest president in history and literally a week later is calling for his impeachment, think about how seriously the American people should take President Trump's promise not to cut Social Security, not to cut Medicare. There is no principle. There is no consistency. These things just sort of swing with the wind. And that's a pretty scary thing when you're talking about the most powerful office in the land.
I think the other thing that I think of is about the world watching. And the world watched Donald Trump today talk about Elon Musk's black eye and wonder why he wouldn't cover it up with makeup. Talked about Elon Musk wearing the hat, the MAGA hat, that Trump was right about everything. They're outing themselves as so deeply shallow to a degree that I'm not even sure I appreciated until I heard it from the two of them in the context of their fight.
Yeah. You asked the question, what does the world see? Thank God we are, by orders of magnitude, as powerful country as we are, aircraft carrier after aircraft carrier, a fabulous nuclear deterrent, the capability to project force around the world. Thank God we are that country. Because if we were weak and vulnerable, which we are not, the bad guys of the world would be thinking, okay, now is the moment to perpetrate something against the United States because it is an absolute reality TV show in the Oval Office starring Elon Musk, his young son, and whoever is in the president's ear today. So again, thank God we are as strong a country as we are, because take it from me, the ranking member of the Intelligence Committee, there's some dangerous people out there in the world, and if I were them, this would be the moment where I would say, oh my God, the United States, the wheels are coming off, and now is our moment to do something ugly.
Well, you, again, as a ranking member of the Intel Committee, must hear the same thing I hear from former counterterror officials and intelligence officials, that in the eyes of our adversaries, this very much is the moment, that we are more vulnerable than we've been in decades. Do you trust that Hegseth atop the Pentagon and Tulsi Gabbard atop the intelligence community and Laura Loomer's pick of the week, nestled inside our national security agencies, have what it takes to protect us?
Yeah, I mean, let me answer that in the sort of the short term and the long term. In the short term, do I trust Pete Hegseth? No, of course I don't. Pete Hegseth, we saw a glimpse into Pete Hegseth in the Signal chat. He's a 12-year-old boy who's, playing big, powerful guy and talking about F-18s and launching off of carriers and everything. So of course not. Look, when something is going wrong abroad, is that the guy you want making the judgments? I don't think so. But let me also be balanced here and say that Donald Trump has, for whatever else I may think of him, he has a deep aversion to kinetic conflict on the planet, right? And if you look back over these last 20 or 30 years of American mistakes, it has usually been us getting involved in places, Iraq, Afghanistan, going all the way back to Vietnam, that we subsequently come to regret. So you ask me if I'm nervous. Yes, in the sort of very near term, if North Korea is fueling a missile or if there's terrorist activity out there, I'm very nervous. But again, over 20 or 30 years, the mistakes the United States have made have been about over-engaging in militarily unwise ways. And I have to say, this president at least seems to have antibodies to that as an instinct.
Are the antibodies working in terms of the way we're positioning ourselves in an adversarial position, at least publicly, with Ukraine against Russia?
Unfortunately, I think they're contributing to his hesitancy to support Ukraine. Again, it's this aversion to kinetic conflict. We're going to have a test case here, right? My own view is, I'm watching this Iran deal situation very, very closely. My own view is, having spent some time with the Prime Minister of Israel a couple of months ago, that he is hell-bent and determined on having a war with Iran. And I think he probably is going to do everything he can to get the United States involved in that war with Iran. And so there's going to be a real test for this president about whether he sort of falls back on what I think is probably a healthy instinct to be skeptical of yet another war in the Middle East, or whether the Prime Minister of Israel can be persuasive to him to go against what I think is that instinct that lives inside the head of Donald Trump.
What about Ukraine?
Well, it's funny. We've been hosting a number of British parliamentarians here, and they're very odd conversations, right? Because the British have been 100% behind the effort in Ukraine, and they're coming to Washington and saying, what the hell are you guys doing? The Ukrainians are fighting in a way that the British fought in 1939 and 1940, 1941. And, they are coming to recognize that, that there is half of one political party in this country which is abandoning the traditional principles of standing up for democracy and freedom and liberty around the world. And that's, I think, a profoundly uncomfortable thing. Look, I had a British parliamentarian say, are you guys serious about NATO and Article 5? If Lithuania is invaded, is the United States there? And I had to say, I think so, but, not a lot of certainty.
TBD. Congressman Jim Himes, thank you so much for fielding all of our questions. We appreciate you.